The snow is falling. It looks like December out there finally, and we are 12 days away from Christmas. Hockey fans, welcome to Dolany TV. I'm Tyson, and this is, of course, the beginning of what's going to be a beautiful season of hockey. Yes, sir, I'm talking about the World Juniors for 2022 up there in Edmonton and Red Deer. Maybe a guy like me down here in southern Alberta could sneak up there for a game. Probably not a Canada game, knowing all my luck, but we'll figure that out as we go along. However, today we get started with, of course, the final roster, the 25 young men that will represent Team Canada this season at the IIHF World Junior Championship in Edmonton and Red Deer. So we're not going to waste too much time on this. Obviously, there are storylines that everybody's been kind of paying attention to along the whole development camp, training camp, whatever you want to call it, the past week, and now all of a sudden we see the payoff on the roster. Question is, what do you want to see first? The forwards, the defense? Let's go with whatever I can click and figure out first. So how about this? Let's start off with the forwards, and we start off with a 2023 draft eligible player. Yes, sir, Connor Bedard makes the squad, and while that is probably the biggest storyline you could say out of this for sure, because everyone was paying attention. Is he going to do it? Is he possibly going to get this done? If you've been paying attention over the past couple of years, Connor Bedard's the 2023 draft eligible player that is projected most likely to go first overall. There might be a guy or two in the draft that in the next year could have something to say about that, but at current moment, Connor Bedard is looking to be the number one guy, especially from within Canada. So then you move down to Xavier Bourgault, who is the Oilers draft pick from the 2021 NHL draft. Of course, that's the pick with Wallstat and all that you know all too well. But Bourgault, he has shown very well so far in the QMJHL, looking very sharp, putting up, I think, almost 2 points per game. Of course, you want to talk about competition level, overage, whatever you want to say, sure, whatever. But this is a guy that's coming in at 6 foot, 172. You look at that. He is right in the middle of the pack to the higher end of kind of where the height chart is for this Team Canada team this year. So he's going to be a guy that's expected probably to bring a little bit of a physical force, but exactly what he does to the QMJHL as well. So keep that in mind. Maverick Bourque. So you're going to see this. I just need to make a kind of note because I will skip over guys I'm not quite entirely familiar with. But a guy, a 2020 draft pick, first round, 30th pick, okay? So right there, right, another guy playing with Xavier Bergo. So you can kind of see that one makes sense a lot there. And 5'11", 185, so kind of more of a wrecking ball compared to Bourgault. So two guys that I have watched this season, a game with Shawinigan on CBC this year, and both looked phenomenal. Bergo was dangerous all game, but I think in that one it was Bourque getting all of the credit, all the stats, if you would say, in the goal column in that game early in the season. Will Kyle, well, he is 6'3", 210. So if you're looking for the big guy on the squad this year, that would be him, coming in from Windsor, and a New York pick in the second round. So again, I was going to mention this with Bourque, but I thought of something else to mention. Not too many guys outside of the first round in this team, but it kind of depends, right? You've got some guys from 2020 that are outside of the first round in Justin Surtiff. You've got Jake Neighbors in their late pick, right? And then all of a sudden you move up the chart here to Elliot Dosnoy. Man, I'm going to butcher these names, but we'll figure it out. Gordon Miller's got our backs, right? And Phones, of course, taking some thrown off. And Will Kyle as well, a 2020 draft pick. So most of the 2021 draft picks that you're going to see here are guys that have been first-round picks, other than Logan Stankoven, who is another pick from the Dallas Stars. So we go over this roster. It looks to be quite talented up front as well. But the problem being, of course, there's always that, oh, you could have had this guy, you could have had that guy. But I really don't think there's anyone in Team Canada land this season up front that realistically you could say, well, he would be 100% better than this guy or anything. I don't think there's any shocking cuts like there are on potentially the back end for Team Canada, right? The guys that didn't make it, Zach Dean, William Dufour, Luke Evangelista, I think that's one of the biggest names with Jack Finley and Hendrix Lapierre. Those are three guys, yeah, sure, that probably could have been there, probably could have missed, but again, that's why you evaluate these guys. That's why you bring them in for a week before the tournament. That's why you do things. Joshua Roy and Ryan Tevberg, well, those guys, honestly, I haven't heard anything of this year, so that's something else to keep in mind. So there's really not that much outside of those three that I'd kind of touched on that I'd be saying, oh my goodness, really, Team Canada could miss one of those guys. So three guys, well, you know what? Shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? In that instance, for sure. So that's the forwards. You got Cole Perfetti in there returning. He's obviously going to be counted on to be a huge impact player, kind of up there with a Mason McTavish, Jake Neighbors, Kent Johnson, Dylan Gunther, and Ridley Grieg. Those would be the guys I'd say probably you're looking at your top six right there. Connor Bedard, probably a guy who sneaks into the Team Canada ranks as well. And I think I'm actually missing somebody. Hold on. I think I've actually, oh, look at that. I knew I was because I didn't have my graphic fully up. And Shane Wright as well. So Shane Wright, after missing last year's Team Canada World Juniors team, he's on the squad this year. So you've got potentially the number one pick and the number one pick the next year in this Team Canada forward group. That is huge, of course, after having Owen Power on Team Canada this year as well, who was last year's first round pick. So let's go over there to the defense, right? We got a lot to cover on the forwards. I don't think I can do it justice. On defense, Lucas Cormier, Caden Gooley, Carson Lambos, Ryan O'Rourke. You've got Owen Power. You've got Donovan Sabrango, Ronan Seeley, and Olin Zellweger. That's looking to be a pretty good solid defense, but there's one name I think all of us are going to be asking what's going on there with. Of course, Brant Clark. I'm not 100% sure on the story. We'll get it during the World Juniors. We'll be fine. We'll be dandy and we'll get it going. But it's, of course, when they announced the selection camp roster, it was quite shocking, right? We were all quite shocked, I think, universally as Canadians, that Brant Clark wasn't named to the roster, but still a roster that looks pretty solid either which way. Caden Gooley, of course, now with the Edmonton Oil Kings. You've got now in net Sebastian Cossa with the Oil Kings, Dylan Garand, and Brett Brochu on there as well. So a lot of guys that are looking to make an impact, right? You don't have too many draft eligible players, only three, I believe, if I'm to replay this graphic. Yeah, only three, Brochu, Bedard, and Wright. Not a bad group of guys that are draft eligible for this Team Canada squad that will be looking to make an impact, that is for sure. So in net, I'd expect, just based on draft ranking, Cossa to be the starter. Based on everything I know about the Oil Kings this year, Cossa to be the starter. But of course, we got some exhibition games to play and get done as well. So there's guys that are going to kind of melt around and see where they sit after the exhibition games, and it'll be interesting to see once we get things rolling with this team, where we're looking at for this team to be a kind of lineup situation, defensive pairings, and goaltending situation. Now, the caveat to the Cossa starter thing is, of course, Dylan Garand is returning from last year's squad along with Cole Perfetti and Caden Gooley. So those guys, three guys that are probably going to get a ton of ice time early on in the tournament or at some point in the tournament, goaltending situation, right? But for Team Canada, definitely going to be interesting to see how this all pans out heading into the next few weeks. Exhibition games begin in, I think, a week's time from now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the tournament kicks off on Boxing Day with Canada facing the Czech Republic, but I believe the exhibition games begin on either the 20th or the 21st. Now, will I have that? Hopefully we'll have stuff going for that as well, but we'll find out as we get into this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tyson. This is Dolan TV. That's just your quick overview of the roster. I wish I knew more, but hey, we'll find out more as we go along here right away. So ladies and gentlemen, have yourself a great rest of your Monday. I will catch you later with the next update. I'm up on out of here.